Okay. Hi, Amanda.
Hey Sylvia, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I want to say thank you for being here with us. This is a project we've been wanting to do at the Compassion Project with my supervisor, Pauline, just getting some information out to women in our community, peri and postpartum, and letting them know that they're not alone in what they're feeling, what they're thinking, how they're behaving. And I thought you would be great to have here and kind of give us some education on your perspective on postpartum or peripartum concerns, especially since I know you're an advocate for this in our community. So I guess I want to say thank you for being here. Welcome. I really appreciate your time, and I just want to know where you're at right now and what you've been up to. It's been a while since we've spoken, so just catch us up on where you're at.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I am honored to help you guys. This is, like, as you said, I am such an advocate for mental health, period, but I struggled with my own mental health postpartum. So I find the postpartum piece is very near and dear to my heart because it was probably the hardest thing I've ever gone through. But so thank you so much. I am honestly very happy to be here. What have I been doing? Working, the pandemic, like, really we're still in a pandemic, so I haven't been doing too much
Yeah.
crazy stuff, but just really working on my podcast and growing my podcast. And it's been such a wild ride. I've met some amazing women, had some amazing conversations, like had some breakthroughs myself talking
Mm,
to some of these women, and just really finding myself really like in this community of motherhood. And it's incredible, the motherhood community on all social platforms, how we all want the same things, which is to normalize mental health issues,
yeah.
all in all phases, even pregnancy and postpartum.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. You had mentioned to me, kind of off the record, that you had written something that was accepted.
Mm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I wrote I don't know if it's a chapter. I don't know if I want to call it a chapter because I'm not really sure if it's going to be a chapter or not. I don't think it was
Okay.
long enough.
Yeah.
So I wrote a piece for a book that's coming out with the Canadian Perinatal Mental Health Collaborative. They
Wow.
are putting out an analogy, and it's just going to be this amazing book that's just full of stories for all moms to read and be able to relate to, and just hopefully feel normal and not feel so alone, and know that there's so many women in this country that go through this. And I think through that book, it's just going to add to the layers of what the Canadian Perinatal Mental Health Collaborative is trying to do, which
Mm,
is they want to show the federal government how much of a need there is for funding in this area. So it's going to be incredible. I can't wait to read it. I'm so excited to read through, like, I'm not sure how many women are going to be on it, but I know that it's just going to be a full book full of stories. So it's just going to be incredible.
wow, that is amazing. What an honor for you. That's
I'm so
awesome.
excited.
Yeah.
What about you? I feel like I haven't talked to you in, well, we haven't. We just said that we haven't talked in so long. What have
Yeah.
you been up to?
Well, a lot.
Yes.
Just before I do go into that, I do want to say that when you said that this whole, idea resonates with you, I want to say too that it resonates with me, both not only just postpartum but peripartum with me. I have two children, a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old. And just going through postpartum concerns after I had my 10-year-old and peripartum concerns before I had my 4-year-old. So I want to thank you in that. And there's a catchphrase in mental health that we always say that you're not alone. And hearing you say that reminds me that I'm not alone, and I wasn't alone at the time, but it certainly felt that way. So thank you for highlighting that. And then what have I been doing? Well, when I spoke to you last, I was just beginning my practicum at the Compassion Project, and it has now been 7 months, and I have one more month left, and I have been filled with just so much growth. Uh, the clients I've worked with have been amazing teachers, and the demographic that I've really worked with a lot is postpartum women. So hence why we're here. So
That's incredible.
it's been great, and yeah, thank you for asking. So
That's really exciting.
I just wanted to share the screen and just go through some of the preliminary things of postpartum concerns with you. Um, and hopefully we can do like a 6-part series of this. This is our first one, so let's see where it takes us. And just by way of sharing the screen first, hopefully you can see that, yes?
Yes, I can.
All right, so I'll just present here, make it a little more formal. Um, so yeah, this is something that I came up with when I first started my practicum at the Compassion Project with Pauline, who is my supervisor. And I thought it'd be a good idea just to share this and talk it through with you, and just kind of understanding what it means to be postpartum. And one of the things I've learned and I've heard either through my lived experience or even through the clients that I've been privileged to work with is that it does look different for everyone. We can have concerns like depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive tendencies, but it's important to kind of unpack what they look like for each woman. What is normal? What is not normal? What's normal for you might not be normal for me, vice versa. Um, yes, we're going to be exhausted. Yes, we're tired, but what does that exhaustion really look like? Is it more emotional? Is it filled with restlessness? Is it constant worry? All of these things weigh us down. And we, as women, kind of second guess ourselves because we're supposed to do it all. That's the social construct. That's the narrative. You're tired, of course. You have a child. You're tired, of course. You just gave birth. But if we really know, and when we trust, which is such a hard word, when we trust ourselves in the process of what we're going through and something doesn't feel right, so important to voice to people you trust and get the help you need. What do you think?
Oh, I completely agree with everything that you're saying. And I love I love the point that you have about that maternal mental health is underrated, because that is a lot of what I got when I first started talking about how I was feeling to my parents. And it was like, well, you're a mom. That's how you're supposed to feel. Of course you're overwhelmed. You have a toddler and a newborn. And, or some people would say, well, I told you that it was too soon to have another baby. Like as if it was like my issue. Like if I would have waited, maybe I could handle it better. When in reality, I was just really struggling, looking for someone to validate my feelings. And I wasn't getting that, because a lot of what I was getting was, well, you're a mom, so what? Like, this is your life. And I remember feeling like, this can't be my life. Like, I am not supposed to be a mom and be miserable all the time. Like, I remember my mom being miserable at times, but I don't remember her, like, acting as though she felt the way I was feeling at the time.
Yeah.
And I also really like that you brought up that it can look really different for each woman, because I was really struggling with anger, and I struggled by myself through this for like, I don't know, a good 4 or 5 months. And I could see it very clearly, but every time I looked at postpartum depression, I just didn't fit the box. I didn't fit the box of anxiety. I didn't fit the box of postpartum OCD.
Yeah.
I felt in my heart that something was going on with me, but every time I looked it up or I brought it up to someone, I just didn't fit the box, until I went to my family physician, who then helped me go into therapy. And the therapist said, well, anger can be depression or anxiety. It could be a mix of both. You don't have to fit a box. And I was like, well, thank God someone's finally said it to me, because I thought I was maybe just an awful person or something. I just thought something had changed, and I knew something had changed, but maybe it was just me and this is just who I was now.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. Um, Amanda, a few things as I was listening to you talking and sharing came up for me, and three words came up: anger, dismissiveness, and gaslighting. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that anger, that mother rage, is because our needs aren't being met. One of the fallouts of anger. And what a time for your needs not to be met as a mother. Yet that's the time when we do have to voice and say, I need this, but we're taught not to.
Exactly.
Um, and then the other one is the dismissiveness that we get, which is kind of connected to the gaslighting, I think. You get things like, of course you're going to be tired. Well, I told you so. Well, you should look at the silver lining, at least, this, and that. And it's like, well, you said this one thing, and now I'm telling you how I feel. And not only are you dismissing it, but you're gaslighting me and you're making me feel like what I feel is wrong.
Yeah.
And then perpetuating the anger, right?
Yep.
Um, Going into postpartum depression specifically, I love that your therapist said, well, anger can be in both. We know that depression, yes, it can have certain qualities like you're always tired, really unmotivated, lack of interest in things, weight loss, weight gain, constantly tired, all of these things. But as a postpartum woman, those things are normal.
Right.
I'm wondering in your lived experience, if you're open to share, or in your research and in your writing, what are some things that you've come across are different with depression, women in postpartum, and what we would call non-postpartum depression? I mean, there's some things on the slide, but it's just nice to kind of highlight what your experience has been.
Right. Yeah, I'm happy to share. So I, I like a lot of the things that you have on the slide here. And I think that's one of the reasons why sometimes it's so hard to determine if you like fall in the box or
Yeah.
you fit that box that we're trying to make ourselves fit. Because, okay, so extreme fatigue. So I didn't sleep all night and then I had a toddler up during the day. So it was really hard to figure out if I was really tired, but I did find, like what you said earlier, was I was emotionally exhausted. Like I was physically exhausted, but I remember just feeling like almost like so tired of being with myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so tired of like my own thoughts and living like, in my mind where I was trying to navigate how I was really feeling. That was exhausting to me. And same with the pleasurable things. Like I had no motivation to do anything, even if it was something as simple as my husband saying to me, let's watch a movie. All I had to do was lay on the couch and watch the movie, but I really didn't want to. And he would really irritate me when he asked me to do those types of things because I was tired and I felt like he didn't understand how tired I was. And it was just it was just a different type of tired. Like I don't really know how else to explain it other than like I was physically tired because of the children, but I was very mentally exhausted, and it was so much heavier than the physical exhaustion. Like I feel like I could have like ran a 5K but not like sat and watch a movie.
Yeah.
Because it was just too much.
Yeah.
And when I look through some of these other things, the hopelessness was large for me. And same with the worthlessness. It was just this horrible feeling of, my children deserved better. Especially my daughter, because it was always, well, actually it was both of them. My daughter would make me angry if she did something like cried in the middle of the night, which a newborn does. That's what they do. I had one previously, but for some reason, when she cried, it would like trigger it. And when my toddler when he would whine, it would trigger it. So I had this feeling of like, they deserve a better mom. And I made a big mistake and I shouldn't have had a second baby because I can't handle this. And it even turned into worthlessness with my husband. Like he deserves a better wife who's happier and nicer and not angry.
Yeah.
So it it just looked so different. And with the death and suicide, I didn't have a suicidal thought, but I remember being terrified of it. It was like something that I just remember getting to this point where I was like, I'm so scared of those are going to come in. And, but it's also, I think, hard when you're trying to determine whether or not you've got postpartum depression if you don't have those suicidal thoughts. I feel like sometimes I don't want to say that somebody wants them, but then it's like, okay, I do have it. I need to go and talk to someone. But then if you don't, it's like, well, I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt the baby, so I mustn't have it.
Yeah. It almost feels like it's an all or nothing or extremes, but really it doesn't have to be that, right?
That's right. It's definitely not black and white. We think it is, but it's like very much gray.
No, not at all. Yeah. Thank you for that. You had talked about your husband asking you to watch a movie, and when you are in it, especially those first 3 months, that can be really dark and really hard. And someone asks you to do something, even the phrase, "Hey, what can I do for you?" or "What do you need?" Sometimes that sentence can land so hard because you're asking me to think about something to do so you can do it for me. Even
exactly.
it can be really difficult. Working with some of the women that I have in the last 7 months, even when I challenge them or ask them to do something to help them in their therapy, I even say, "You might not like this, but I'm going to ask you to do something," which is the last thing a new mom wants, right? Everything is just little by little, and what's coming at me, I'm going to deal with it. And the thing too, Amanda, is that when we have all these thoughts, and even the scary ones, or am I good enough? I'm not a good enough mom. I feel this. I shouldn't. All those kind of thinking trap narratives. They actually also instill a procrastination in us, because what it's really saying is you need help. And yet we're putting up our hand and saying, "No, I'm good." And we're still ruminating with those procrastinating thoughts. And I've recently learned in my own therapy that when we procrastinate in something, even though I can be proactive and want to do, but I'm here procrastinating, that's emotionally exhausting. And we know that as women, okay, I'll do that. I'll do this. I'll do that. I don't need the help. That's procrastinating. And that adds
100%.
to the exhaustion, right?
Oh my God, does it ever?
Yeah. And then, so, there's the depression side, and then the anxiousness, or even, I don't know if you can see this, but there's the obsessive compulsiveness. Oops, go back. The obsessive compulsive tendencies. I know for me that this is kind of my go-to slide, where I land is there's a restlessness, there's a hypervigilance, there's an amped upness, there's constant overthinking, and it's exhausting, and then I crash.
Yep.
What about you?
I feel like I struggled with both, because even while I'm reading these slides, I did most of these things. And I think a lot of us do unknowingly that it's a problem. Again, I think a lot of us as moms just think it's our job to check the baby 17 times while they're sleeping. And it's our job to worry if they're breathing or not, because that one kid died of SIDS at one time. You know what I mean? Or germs. Like, my gosh, look at the world that we're in right now. Imagine having a baby right now, the fear of the germs. Like, that's overwhelming for me. And I don't have a newborn. I don't really want people hugging and kissing my little kids right now either. And I just remember after my son, especially with my daughter, I don't find the hypervigilance was as heavy. But when I first became a mom, like having the conversations with my family physician about the blanket, don't give the baby the blanket. The baby cannot have the blanket. And then my parents, why are you putting the baby on his back? What if he throws up and chokes? I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so right. But then the doctor says, don't put them on their stomach. They'll suffocate. And then you want to give them the blanket, but we can't give them the blanket. And it was like almost like fears instilled into us a little bit. And I really struggled with that. I don't think I gave my poor child a blanket until he was like 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was so afraid. Like it was just this constant conversation about the blanket and the sleeping positions. And I felt like everybody had a valid point. I found it very um, helpful when my parents would say stuff like, they would say, well, when we did it, it did this, we would put you on your belly or on your side. And that made sense to me. But then when the physician said no on the back, that made sense to me. But then all of these fears, which I feel like are valid fears, but they can consume your mind.
And and that's it when you're saying that consumption of your being, and all you have is this focus on this child, when again the social constructs and the narratives that are coming at you are saying, well, you should be content, you're
Mm-hmm.
healthy, your baby's healthy, why are you upset, why are you obsessing over this? And then you do the constant hypervigilance on yourself about the hypervigilance.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's this anxiety loop that we can't get out of. And I think, what I'm learning, uh, I've been a mom for 10 years now. What I'm learning is that I think our children will teach us what we need to know, but we didn't know that before because we're so new. And if
Yes.
we're already a person who has certain tendencies of perfection, of inflexibility, of not being able to go with the flow, this is, like you said at the top of the session here, this can be a really, really hard time, a really tough time, and very, very draining, and just taking so much of our mental energy. Um, and yeah, I remember for me just checking, constant checking and rechecking,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that I did everything right because this kid's got to have the perfect mom.
Oh, yeah. I even still can do it sometimes. Like my son used to have like insanely high fevers, and like the mom gut, and I would think, oh, I just should go check him. And like the one time I did,
Oh,
he
yeah,
was really fevered, and my husband would say to me, "Leave him alone,
yeah,
let
yeah,
him sleep."
yeah. Oh, of course. Um, Amanda, so we've kind of talked about our own experiences when it comes to just this whole idea of postpartum, and whether it's depression or anxiety or compulsiveness. But um, one of the things, and the language around postpartum is really interesting. And interesting, and not that I'm celebrating it, but interesting in that when we have precise language, we can really allow ourselves to be heard, or really be able to understand what we're feeling. Because I think part of therapy too is having a vocabulary, or learning our emotional intelligence and learning how to match it with the vocabulary that we need. And so some of these words that are on here are some things that I've heard women say over the past few months. Um, Pessimism is one. I'm exhausted. Muscle tension from either breastfeeding or holding that child, or even the car seat thing and the stroller. Um, Disillusionment. I didn't think this is what it was going to be like. Phrases like that. Um, Thoughts. Uh, I think my partner's an idiot. I hate this. I don't even know who I am. Um, I, I want to kill myself. I don't know. I don't want to be here. I hate my body. Just on the next slide, the behaviors that we avoid, the crying over time, things that become compulsive. Um, there's a lot. There's a lot here, and I'm wondering, what are some of the things that you've felt, or when coming across and talking to other women about all this, do you hear some of these things? Yeah, if you have the space there to share for that.
I have heard lots of them, especially the anger. I found like the more and more I spoke about my own anger, so many other moms came to me and were like, I loved that podcast episode. I really resonated with it. I think I struggled with it myself. Or um, the hurting the baby, like the intrusive thoughts that one too, like to be able to give women a platform where they can talk about these intrusive thoughts and no one is judging them.
Yeah.
It's really powerful. And, you know, some women don't like to admit it, but it's very healing to hear another woman say their intrusive thought, because we don't want to say those things out loud. Nobody does. Nobody wants to admit to, you know, that they felt at some point they wanted to hurt themselves or their baby, or they thought something horrible was going to happen to their baby and they couldn't stop thinking about that. No one really wants to talk about that, but it is so powerful if someone will come out and say that I'm not good enough and then my partner is an idiot. I hear it all the time. All the time. You know, I think we struggle to communicate with our partners. I think, like you said, it's an emotionally exhausting thing to ask them to do something because it's just easier if I do it myself. But it's not really the way to be, but it is easier if we do it ourselves. I hate my body. That was another one. Sorry, I'm like looking for the one that really came out. I found that there is so many women who truly hate their body. And I think something they have to always remember is like, look what your body just did for you. I really had so much more respect for my body after I had my babies. Like before, I hated my body, but now I feel like it does really helpful things for me. But the I hate my body is probably the biggest one I've heard so far.
Yeah. Yeah. I, you know, when in going back with the obsessive compulsiveness and the body image stuff, it's so hard. And I speak for myself when I say this, you know, there's the ideal of, well, even that comment, like that other women give and say you're a week, or say you're even a month postpartum or 2 months, and the first thing people say, you look so good. Oh my gosh, you lost that baby weight. And then I don't know that that's very positive to say, because should you have lost that baby weight that fast? Like, let it just be, wow, look what you're doing. You're sleeping. You should celebrate, like, wow, you haven't cleaned your house. Or you know, and I say that because I had a lactation consultant after I had my baby, and she was coming in and she would see our apartment clean and organized, and she would say, uh-oh, this isn't good. Because of my expectations in terms of even this slide that's up, like my behaviors, over cleaning, constantly on the move. Well, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to be. Even on a cultural level, as a woman of color, this is what I have to do. I am Hispanic. I need to keep a clean home. I need to do this. My mom did the same. And if I don't do this, even though I'm a week postpartum, then that says I'm not running my home well. So all of these things that come into play that are just crap, these narratives. And yet we are grown up with them. We're taught these things by our society. And, you know, at the bottom of this slide, it says, it's okay, you're not alone. And we started the session this way by saying that too. And sometimes I find that phrase kind of annoying, like, oh, yes, typical mental health phrase.
Right.
The thing is that it's so true. When you when you hear other women say things like, oh my gosh, my baby, like, I want to hurt my baby. When we hear that other women say that, it's like, oh, thank God, I really am not alone in this. And that normalizes it. It validates what we're going through. And it makes us feel like, yeah, it's okay. I'm getting the help I need. I'm saying what I need to say. And it's okay.
Absolutely. It's almost like you kind of like want to look away because you can't believe she said it, but you're also so thankful she said it, because it's like, thank you for saying what I'm thinking, but I'm too afraid to say it, right? And so it just is like the Me Too thing. It's just, thank goodness there's someone out there that feels that way, this way, and I am not this horrible person that I think I am, because if I don't think they're horrible, that they feel the same way that I do, then I must not be horrible.
Yeah. You know, our time is coming to an end, but I want to say, like, even just these last questions here on the slide is for women that are listening to this. What do postpartum concerns look like for you? And I guess for me, my quick off of the head answer is if something's not feeling right, say it. Yes, it's not supposed to feel, postpartum isn't supposed to feel like you felt when you weren't pregnant or when you didn't have children. But I think you know when something's not right and to seek the resources and the help you need because once you know that, you can then become aware, which I think can help with the second question here. Any feedback for us?
I would agree. I think the biggest thing is exactly what you said. If something doesn't feel right, you need to ask for help. And if you don't fit the box, but you feel like something
Yeah.
isn't right, ask for the help because you will feel so much better
Oh,
once you can. I almost felt just so much better when I can just put a name to it instead of going, do I have postpartum depression? When someone could tell me, yes, you do, it was like, okay, let's move forward now and figure out how I'm going to get better.
yeah. There's a relief sometimes. I mean, diagnoses aren't everything, but there is a relief in just knowing, like, okay, there's something here that's part of me that I'm going to work through. And it
Yeah.
is going to make you more emotionally intelligent, socially aware, and that the next time someone that you come across with is in that same boat, you're there to help them along and encourage them too.
That's right.
I don't know, just a little references page so people know that this is up to date information. Um, but wow, that went fast. And
It did.
yeah, we had lots to say. I do, again, Amanda, want to thank you so much. I hope you'll do the next little session
Yes,
with
of
me.
course. I'd be happy to.
What we just talked about is just very general, and we'll be unpacking a few of the things we talked about in more detail. But it's a start, and thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Even just talking about this now, even though I have a 10-year-old, there's something cathartic about it still. I mean, I
For
guess
sure.
I am 4 years postpartum too, but there is something that comes up, and there's always healing that comes up when it's death.
Absolutely. I agree. Hey, I'm 4 years postpartum too. That's my oldest. And I
Yeah.
still am like, wow, yeah, I did feel that way, didn't I? You can really
Yeah.
look back and you get busy and you forget how hard it can be. So it's very therapeutic to talk to someone about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
thank you for those who listened. And we will have some more of these with some more information. And if anyone is listening right now and you are in a postpartum phase of your life and you're feeling heavy, exhausted, please reach out. You can reach out to the Compassion Project. And my email is sylvia@thecompassionproject.ca. And Amanda, do you have some kind of connection or email or something you can throw out if someone needs something?
Yeah, if there is like someone who's listening and you're not really sure you want to reach out for help quite yet, or you're not sure, you just want someone to listen to you, they can email me at honestasAmother@hotmail.com.
Thanks so much, Amanda.
Thank you, Sylvia. Have a great day.
You too.